My name is Kelly, and I have gone through prostate cancer. I was diagnosed 10 years ago, and I was treated, and I now have a clean bill of health, and this is my partner, Ray. My first years of adult life were spent in a Dominican monastery. When I left the order, I couldn't get a job, so played piano in a bar for a while, and then I toured internationally with Mary O'Hara, who was the leading Irish singer at the time. I came out later in life. I was 52 when I came out publicly.
I was going to a fraternity event, which is an organization for gay business professionals, and we were having a guest speaker. When I walked in with a friend of mine, I said, you see that guy up there on the stage who's going to talk? Well, I'm going to be with him on the long term after tonight. And anyway, during the break, exchanged cards, and we spoke a few nights later and got together for dinner, and here we are. We got married in September 2 years ago. We decided to make it official, and as a result, feel like full citizens now.
I was at home one day in the country, and we had just moved into our new home just a while before, and the assistant or the nurse from the doctor's office phoned, and she said, just want you to know that 5% of one of the biopsies showed cancer, so you have prostate cancer. And then I hung up the phone and went into the great room and started to cry, and I just cried and cried and cried. I thought, this is the end, and I'm home alone planning my death. And I was sure that it was the end, and by the time the day was over and the night was over, because nights are always worse than the days, I'd had several funerals and had figured everything out, but I lived in a kind of terror. Ray received the news of the prostate cancer with the loving concern that he does when anything comes up in my life, and his attitude was, what can I do, how can I support, what do you need, and I have to say that our relationship, which was intimate, became deeper and more intimate.
I remember sitting out in the front veranda and thinking how different life might be, but the important thing was now, and making sure that what we had, which was so rich in its quality, didn't diminish. And some of the richest times were our quiet times, just holding and being held. Some of the conversations we got into about the possibility of dying and also of death, and we've had those since. They allowed us to reach a new level or depth of a relationship that we probably wouldn't have reached until we're much older. Yeah, worked through that, and we did it together. So I certainly wasn't going to run away.
The incontinence was the thing that there was 50% chance that there might be incontinence, and I'm sure all of this is much better at this stage of life. But 10 years ago, it was a big issue for me to think that I might have to all of a sudden go to the bathroom in the middle of a concert or in the middle of a talk. I thought, well, that could ruin my whole professional life, and I'm young yet, and I'm not ready for that to happen. So I chose the radiation, and radiation would be 42 sessions over 42 days, 5 days a week. You had to go with a full bladder and an empty bowel, and in the morning, with a 2-hour drive, it wasn't the best thing possible. I wore black corduroy pants all the time, in case I had to wet my pants on the way down, and a few times I did, or I had to take a Ziploc bag with me or something, just to be sure that I'd be okay.
Well, as Kelly was going through the ordeal, I was certainly experiencing my own feelings. I think there was such a mixture of fear, of uncertainty, of being unsure what to expect, getting into some of the thoughts that we'd prefer not to have about, was I going to be alone? Was this going to be really painful and really miserable? The main support was being available and talking, and talking about some of those days that might not have gone as well. Maybe he didn't make it quite to the hospital with a full bladder, and talking about that over dinner and having a laugh about it, and then deciding, well, we'd get a bigger plastic bag for the next trip in or something. I guess if I think back, at times there may have been more of a sense of being alone than perhaps Kelly might have at some times, because there was a great support network around at the hospital. He had fantastic people working with him. He had a doctor he could call. There weren't those same types of people around me. And so some of the times there wasn't that same support network, which might have been good to have had. However, we had each other and still do.
I could pee well. I was afraid I'd never have an erection again. And that's a big thing for a guy. And I thought that may never happen. And it didn't for a little while. But the first time it all worked was really, it was kind of nice.
Without erection being what it might have been, that's one thing for you to have dealt with, and it certainly is one thing for me to have dealt with. Being gay, being certain things we like, and I think as a part of the richness of growth, we discover that we don't just need to have a real hard penis every time.
However, if your life has all been defined by having a huge erection and then a huge orgasm, then you might live the rest of your life in disappointment. You might live most of your life in disappointment because you've never found what you were looking for anyway. And
well, keep on looking then. Yeah, it's really true that our sexual communication is very much a deep communion. However, at times it's nothing more than just having fun with each other and with ourselves, and I think it's more than just communion.
You're telling me that after all these years.
Well, I guess we'll have to go have some fun. We do.
Did you bring any of those pills with you, doctor? One of the things that I think it did was it gave us an opportunity to talk about living and dying. And I think it set the stage for the next phase of our life.
I think rather than it being a wedge or driving either one of us away from the other, I think it allowed us, maybe it didn't, we allowed it to be something to have a deeper relationship.
It gave us a little more zest for living. It made us realize that, don't wait till spring. Do it now.